And a hush fell over the crowd. Hush. Thanks for hushing, folks. This is Pat from Asphalt Green's Recess Enhancement Program, here with another instructional video for you, this time for our game, Body Bingo. As always, though, before we hop into any game, we want to start off with a safety check. As always, just making sure that we and our students are always washing their hands both before and after we play a game for 20 seconds each time. Making sure that no one's putting their hands anywhere near their face at any point. Always making sure that if anyone has to cough or sneeze, that they're just dabbing right into the elbow. And that everyone is always staying 6 feet away from each other so that everyone is always properly social distanced. All right? So, if everyone's ready to go to hop into the game itself, why don't you give me 2 dabs? And let's get started. From the looks of those dabs, everyone seems ready, which means that we'll hop right into Body Bingo, okay? And wait, what's the name of the game? It's Body Bingo. So folks, this game is great for students in kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, so students of any age range, right? And it's a game that allows students to practice both their math skills and allows them to get active. So it's a win-win for everyone, you know? It's a great game too because it's super safe. So students will be kind of working out in their own specific area so they can stay in one place, which means that you can have everyone be 6 feet apart from one another and there won't really be too much movement that will get them any closer to each other. Additionally, we'll be playing bingo with some exercises in it, which we'll get into as we go later on in the video. So the equipment that students will need to use will be their own pen, pencil, and their own paper. So they won't need to share any equipment whatsoever. So again, completely safe throughout. As well, just as important as safety, the game is super fun, just as all of our rep games are. So along with practicing math and getting active, it is both safe and it's fun. So we've got wins all around here, all right? But let's get into the details of the game. And of course, as always, to do that, we'll rep it out. So whenever we're repping it out, we of course want to start with R ready, right? So how can we get ready for Body Bingo? Well, the first thing you want to do is map out your play area and designate the boundaries of that play area. Body Bingo can really be played anywhere. Students will be playing the game by themselves for the most part, but competing against other students. But they'll be playing in one specific area. That could be their desk. They could be, in a specific area in the library, whatever it might be. As long as students have 6 feet from them to other students, they'll be good to go because they won't really need to move from that spot. So once you've mapped out the play area and designated the boundaries, so that's possible for your students, you can move on into the second portion of getting ready, which is removing any items that might pose a safety risk to any students in your play area. And you can think too about how you might be able to work around any items that can't be moved, okay? Once all that has been done, you remove those items, you can lay down any cones or tape that you might need in order to designate those boundaries so you can lay out that equipment. And as mentioned, there won't really be any other equipment needed for this game other than the students' own pens, pencils, and paper, okay? So once you have everything in your play space ready to go, you can grab the students' attention and you can use the attention grabber that I was using at the beginning of the video to do that, which of course was, and a hush fell over the crowd, hush, which would then allow you to move into the next portion of the rep motto, E. Explain. So whenever explaining a game, it's always important that we're using a loud and clear voice so that all students can hear and understand us. And it's also important that we are asking students specific questions throughout our explanation just to make sure that they're listening and understanding what it is that we're saying. We want to clarify things for them as much as possible. So one question that we would suggest you ask students is, well, how exactly do you get a Body Bingo? And I'm sure you're actually probably wondering how you do that yourself. So I'm going to go into the instructions of the game, and you can follow along on your own copy of those instructions, okay? So how do we play Body Bingo? Well, first off, as I've been mentioning, We want to make sure that students are 6 feet apart from one another, all right? And so that can be at their desks that are 6 feet apart from one another. They could be standing, they could be sitting 6 feet apart from one another in a the playground, whatever it might be, whatever area you have. You just make sure that students are 6 feet apart from one another, and we'll have room within that area to do some moving and exercising, okay? So once students are all set up in their spaces, you can then hand out copies of a body bingo board, all right? And those copies, they can either be one of reps making, they can be even copies that you've made yourself, whatever it might be, just so long as students have body bingo boards in front of them that they can complete. Additionally, if you want, you can draw your own on a board that you might have in the room that you're in, and you can have students copy that board down on their own paper using their own pens and pencils, okay? So once students are set in the area, they have a body bingo board, you can explain to students that they're going to be trying to get a body bingo. And what do you mean get a body bingo? Well, in order to get a body bingo, what you want to do is you want to complete the squares on the board in a line. So there will be a number of different lines, different rows, columns, all the like. As long as students can complete all of the boxes in one line, whether that's vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, they'll get a body bingo. So how do they complete squares though? Well, what they're going to have to do is complete the math equation in that square, and then they're going to take that answer from the math equation, and they're going to do that number of reps of the specific exercise that is also in that square, okay? So, for example, say in one square it said 15 divided by 3 lunges, right? Students would work out the math problem so as to come to the answer, 5, and then they would do 5 lunges. Once they have done that, they've completed the math equation, and they've completed the exercise, they have completed that square, okay? And then they'll continue on trying to complete squares in a line. Again, either vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. And once they've completed all of the math equations and all of the exercises in those squares, well, then they have a body bingo, and they'll have completed the game. So that's our explanation for the rules of body bingo, right? So how about we talk a little bit about how we can play the game so that students are abiding by those rules, and how we can play the game to keep students engaged and interested in it, all right? But in order to do that, we'll need to gather up. So a hush fell over the crowd. Hush. And I'll need everyone to gather up and stand 6 feet apart from one another while we discuss, okay? So one of the tips that we have for you is to go through the body bingo board yourself before you even hand it out to students, okay? So you want to make sure that the math equations and the exercises are appropriate for the ability level of your students, okay? And then once you've done that, you feel good about it, then you can hand it out to students. Then, once you've handed out the body bingo board to the students, you can go through the board with all of your students, okay? Making sure that they feel comfortable with the exercises and the equations too, right? And then once you've done that, you can have the students demonstrate each of those exercises in each of the squares. That way they know the proper way to complete them, and that way they're set up for success so that they can complete those squares when they need to, okay? Once you've done that, and you've gotten everyone feels comfortable, you can hop right into the game. And what you can do too, of course, is you can always modify the game as you're going along so as to make it more competitive or make it run a little bit longer, right? So say students complete a body bingo, they get a line right away. Well, you can change the rules so that in order to get a body bingo, you have to complete the entire board, right? And then if, say, students have already done that too, well, maybe you can up the challenge a little bit more. You can change the math equations so that they're a little bit more difficult, or you can change the math equations so that the answers to each of the math problems it's a higher number so that students have to do more of that specific exercise in it. You can even look at the exercises themselves and see if you can make them a little bit more challenging for students. And again, you can always lengthen the board so that students have more boxes to complete before they can get a body bingo. Whatever you need to do in order to make the game more engaging, more fun, more competitive, and to last a little bit longer so that students are moving and getting active for a longer period of time. All right? So those are some tips that we have for you on how to play body bingo, which means that we've now come to the end of the rep model and therefore the end of our video. All right, so let's gather up one last time, and a hush fell over the crowd. Hush. Let's gather up and stand 6 feet apart. I just want to thank you again for following along on this instructional video. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you find playing body bingo with your students super, super fun. And we'll catch you the next time. Stay tuned for more instructional videos.